Welcome back to the Intel Extreme Masters Season 10. We are currently in Day 2, Group B, and we're in the winners match. So right now we have one game to determine which player is going through in first place and which player will go down to the decider match to play a little bit later on. Joining me on the desk this time, we have Moonglade and we have Todd. Let's take a look at the bracket. We'll bring that up for you in a quick second just to see where exactly we are if you're just tuning in for the first time. Because here we have it. Innovation opened up the day alongside Lilbo and Fantasy with a 2-0 versus Rhett and finds himself in the winners match. And we just come off the back of Fantasy's 2-1 victory versus Lilbo. And now we have a Terran versus Terran, the two highest seeded players within the WCS ranking system going head to head. It's rank number 13 versus rank number 15, a potential matchup we could see in the future at the global finals. But this one definitely promises to be a pretty good match. I'm pretty excited about this one.
Yeah, certainly so. These two guys are certainly the favorites of their group, and Innovation, I'd have to say, is probably coming into us a little bit stronger. Like he's riding that hype train from career, like Sue is pretty much, and his group. It's going to really depend on how Fantasy's playing today. Like he barely got by his last opponent, and I mean, we didn't actually get to see Innovation play against Red, but it was a 2-0.
What do you think about this Terran versus Terran matchup here, Todd?
I think it's pretty massive. You know, I play Protoss, but I sure can appreciate the beauty of some of the other mirrors. And yeah, this is a big match here between two guys who I feel like this is like a semi-finals, you know, quarterfinals, maybe even sometimes can be a finals of a tournament, and yet it's happening here in the round of 16, which is pretty massive. So,
and I think for a lot of us, especially in the European scene, we don't really get to see in these type of tournaments big clashes of two really good Korean Terran players, and they have historically provided some of the best games in StarCraft 2 history as well. I mean, there's always the Terran versus comebacks and crazy other games, but Terran versus Terran has always had some magic in it.
Yeah, there's a lot more dynamics, especially to Korean TvT. It's a lot more faster paced, I'd have to say, than you know, what we saw earlier today with Happy and Hero Marine. That's kind of like the extreme of the slowing the game down in a big way. So this should be pretty explosive games and a lot more action-packed, though it could go the same route. You know, it could be mech versus mech to end things out.
Well, this is Innovation's first time on the stage. Of course, played his first match off stage, so welcome Innovation to the Intel Extreme Masters. And we'll see how well he's going to do today, because this guy is no doubt a tournament favorite alongside with Sue. I mean, very similar to Shenzhen, we picked out the 4 Protoss players who were going to be top 4 in that tournament, and you know, it kind of went in that direction, and these two players were the ones that we thought were going to do very well at this tournament. So here is Innovation, of course, the 22-year-old from South Korea playing for SK Telecom, and what a player over the years. He's had his ups and downs. He's known as the robotic Terran player. He's been at the top, and he's kind of been at the bottom at the same time. It kind of depends on which month it is, Moonglade.
He certainly had a lot of ups and downs in his career, but currently his team is so far on top in career, in Pro League and the Star League. Every individual league, these guys are winning them. They're just so consistent right now. They're all like, the morale on that team is so high, and he is playing fantastic at the moment as well because of it.
And he goes up against the player we saw just now defeating Lilbo. It is, of course, Fantasy. Here he is playing for Ted Pixels. Not a super impressive best of 3 he just played. Obviously a win's a win, Todd, but he didn't blow any minds.
yeah, you know, that move here with the DTs going to his main was a little bit reckless, and I really feel like he should have been able to kind of, you know, smell them coming at the same time. So I was really surprised that it actually happened, but other than that, like, he showed some solidity, but not quite the impressive win that we saw in comparison, like, from somebody like Sue earlier in this tournament.
I kind of get the impression that for Fantasy, his TVP is his weakest matchup. Like, he seems to be the one that's stopping him in a lot of these international tournaments again and again. So I'm sure we're going to see a little bit more of him in TvT this time around.
I do always like the matchups where we have a champion from Brood War versus a guy who wasn't really anywhere close to Fantasy. And we've seen that multiple times over the years now in StarCraft 2. And here's another one, as Innovation was just kind of a little boy playing for STX way back when, and now he's grown up to be a fantastic StarCraft 2 player. in the scene, but he's got a lot of weaknesses though, because he's never really had that domination streak for a super long time.
Yeah, I mean, his predictability was his biggest weakness of all for the longest time, and he hasn't even really fixed that at this point. He's starting to mix things up now and then, which has created like huge advantages for him in the past, but still, you know, he does have that problem of just going back to his robotics and just going straight into the play that everyone expects of him.
Do you think he still works as hard as he used to? Because I remember like when Innovation came up, like he kind of took the scene by storm. Nobody really saw it coming, except maybe Major. He was like, I remember in this one episode of like State of the Union, he's like, yeah, bogus. It's all about bogus. And back then, Innovation came into the scene basically saying, or not saying it, but like showing it, that a lot of people play StarCraft a lot. They are pro gamers and they practice 24/7, but he was ready to play more than anybody, and he did. Yeah. Do you think he still has that practice regime where he just plays like tons?
I think his practice regime got fixed when he went back to SKT. I think when he got the freedom of an international team, like it can kind of take you by surprise. These Koreans like aren't used to this sort of freedom when they've been in a Kespa team this whole long. So they take a step back, enjoys like those years of international travel and stuff. Now he's back in Korea. They lock him in a room and practice for like 20 hours a day, and he's back at it. You know, he's back on top because of that.
All right, final predictions then before we go to the commentary team.
I'm going to say Innovation 2-0.
Yeah, solid pick.
You already know, Fantasy.
Fantasy?
Yeah, I always disagree with...
Okay,
Fantasy,
so...
just final thoughts, very quick. Fantasy loves TvT. I remember talking to him about playing social matches. He was like, give me anybody, Terran versus Terran, I'll play him, I beat him. I think he got Teja in the end and lost, but he was very confident, so we'll see.
Hopefully that shines through in his matches here. Before we jump to the commentary team, make sure to go to Twitter, especially for this one, hashtag IEM, and let us know what you think about this match, but also let us know what you think about the commentary team for this one. It's a little bit special. We haven't really done this ever before, and Funker makes his debut casting in English with Chloris.
I cannot wait. Funker here at the desk with me. It's been a long time coming, I think. And for a TvT, can't get better than this.
Yes, I mean, that's the matchup I really enjoy casting, as well as observing and playing. So that's like, I think that's the perfect one to ever make a debut like this.
I'm happy you're here, man. I am happy you are here. So, Innovation versus Fantasy. And as our resident Terran expert, basically, in terms of the casters, because everyone's Protoss and Zerg, let's be honest, they play the easier races.
Really bad at TvT.
Yeah, it's not very good. Let's get into it, though. Best of 3 to the bottom left-hand corner. I'm actually not sure.
Yeah.
Quickly, show
Who's
me.
this one?
Oh, it's the...
It's the barcode!
Oh, great. Down to the bottom left-hand corner, we have SKT1's Innovation. That threw me off a little bit, I'll be honest.
It's okay. You did well.
That'd have been great if he'd have only just scrolled over it. It'd have been the barcode, didn't bring up the nameplate up towards the top. And down towards the bottom right-hand corner, we have our red Terran representing Dead Pixels. It is Fantasy. And also, Funker, a big shout-out to your current replacement.
Yeah, big shout out to Rotterdam right now. Like, he's always bragging out about the fact that he's really good at observing.
Yes.
So now we get to see. So you know what to do on Twitter if something goes wrong.
Yeah, we shall find out. You've role reversed.
Role reversed.
And
but thanks, Roddy, for letting me do this. Like, if he wasn't there, couldn't be doing this.
All right, Cactus Valley, our first map here, Funker. In terms of Terran versus Terran, and with gas openers already going on between these two, what were you really expecting to see on a map like Cactus Valley from these guys?
Well, Cactus Valley is actually quite an interesting map in TvT, I feel. Like, there is a lot of potential for marine tank compositions, which is not really popular these days. Like, you see quite a lot of mech play in Korea. So we have 2 Korean Terrans. So I guess we should see quite a lot of mech. And recently in Pro League, we had a crazy game between Bravo and Maru, and it was a cross position. So that's not the exact same example, but still, they played mech versus mech on this map.
Yeah.
And it goes really crazy, really fast, because the map is really, really big, and you've got like lots of way to aggress your opponent, like Hellion run-bys and drops like that. So it's a really interesting map. So I can't really say right now if both players are going to be playing mech, but that's what I should say on the top of my head. Like,
You're
it's
looking
so
out
popular.
for it.
Yeah,
You're
we'll
looking
go
out
for
for it,
it, yeah.
basically. Well, for now, with this opener, do these spawning positions favor anybody in the Terran matchup? Because it does have that rotationally symmetrical kind of
Yeah.
situation.
I would say, like, drop-wise, it's really good to be at Fantasy's place right now because, you know, the main is quite open, so you can do quite a lot of things. If you play Bio, you can drop, but you can also drop when you play Mech. Like, we've seen so many Hellion and Hellbat drop. So I guess that's a tiny bit of an advantage for Fantasy.
All right, it looks like very, very similar builds. We have the double gas bin taken for both of these guys, with the additional starports being added on, looking to go towards Banshees, and then from there trying to exert some kind of pressure. And again, I guess in terms of the drop potential from the rotational symmetrical positions, I guess the Banshees can work equally as well here for Fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. The Banshee is going to be great either way. I find it interesting that the recent trend that was Reaper Hellion, the pressure in the beginning, it kind of fade off. Like you don't see that quite often these days. So I'm really interested by that. They both played Marine in the beginning, not going for Reapers. So we'll see. Both go Banshee Cloak, and then like it's a battle of who's going to be microing the best and who's going to be anticipating the way the Banshee is going to approach the base. Like it's really interesting in the beginning of a TvT. It can go really wrong really fast.
And they're basically just doing completely mirror builds for the most part, aside from slight differences in Widowmine timings and stuff. But with these two Hellions just kind of dancing on around, they were the initial scouts by the looks of things. So these Widowmines, if they get a cheeky detonation on one of these Banshees, that can really kind of turn the tides of battle very quickly, I would say.
Well, let's see if Innovation can turn his Hellion fast enough. No, it's gonna die.
Yeah.
By Hellion. And so you don't get to see that much. You just see the 3 depot wall, which is kind of, you know, you see it every game in TvT because you don't want to get Hellion run by while you get Marine dropped at the same time. So you need to wall at some point. And now the Banshee is gonna, they see each other. They see each other. So they know that they're gonna have to multitask really perfectly. And both of them didn't go that greedy. They went for the Raven, so they should be okay if they micro properly.
Widowmines were repositioned here for Fantasy down towards the bottom to maybe catch this Banshee as it came along. But already he's using the StarCraft Masters Challenge to great effect here, going up against those Marines. Oh, he got him very easily here to this mineral line, though. So he's going to lose a few SCVs for that.
That's actually really good for Fantasy. If he doesn't lose the Banshee, it's going to be close. Maybe auto turrets? No, he's not going to go there, but maybe Innovation is going to lose his Banshee. Auto turret!
Auto turret! Oh, hey.
All right. That was good. That was good. Yeah. That was really good for Fantasy because he went like full YOLO mode right into the mineral line. So he got like quite a lot of SCVs, as Roddy is pointing us. 5 SCVs without losing the Banshee is amazing for Fantasy.
Yeah,
it's really good stuff.
Really good stuff. Of course, yeah, a few Marines died over on the other side, but compared to actually doing a sizable bit of damage to your opponent's mineral line, it's definitely very favorable here for Fantasy.
Yeah, they both delayed the second command center quite a lot because they had to, allocate quite a lot of resources to get that Banshee out and then defend it with the Raven. Fantasy, good stuff. He didn't lose the Banshee, he's still around. Maybe he should bring it back so he can repair it. But for now, I think that's like Fantasy is in the lead. Like not bad that much, but still, see, like the 5 SCVs he got, that's literally what he has going for him. And now he goes for a second Banshee, and I really like it.
Yeah, follow-up Banshees from both of them, actually, by the looks of things, if we saw Innovation let his finish. This Widowmine lurking on the very edge.
Those Koreans, man.
Yeah.
I think he saw it. Like, or maybe he waits for the second Banshee to go on the second base, but I think he saw it. It's like I always get my Banshee killed by a mine. Like I never see him. Like I pay close attention when I observe.
Yeah.
But when I play, that's not the same thing. Now he gets the cloak, so he saw it and he run past by.
Yeah,
that's really good.
Oh, and the Viking actually just the one shot off, didn't exactly realize it was instantly going past, but now is obviously just going to go for the cleanup. At least he has a second Viking. Should be able to finish that off pretty quickly. Likewise, also up to the top, losing a Banshee up there as well.
Banshee in the main of Fantasy.
Back.
That's pretty good. 4 SCVs. Yeah.
All right, a few workers dying off here and there, trying to kind of just bruise each other at the moment. But we're still on the way here for Fantasy, going over towards a more like marine tank composition. And then over on the other side of Innovation, has he really thrown down any more tech right now? I see Siege Tank in production, but no real commitment forwards from Stim or anything.
Yeah, he didn't make his choice. I would say, like, by the fact that he's building that many Vikings, he should go for mech.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's gonna be playing like really slow, and add-on factories once in a while when he's got the money, like he's taking both gases on second base. So that should be it. And quite a lot of Vikings gonna give you DR control, which is always great. And considering what we said earlier, like the drops are so good on this map, especially in these positions. He needs Vikings. Like he needs quite a lot of Vikings.
So, and at the same time here, with Fantasy adding all of this production on when he did, is there any windows here as the bio player to be able to hit against Innovation, especially after you've done some kind of economy damage, or do you think Innovation could be easily buckled down here?
Well, when you play Marine Tank against Mech, I really feel that you need to make a difference really early on, which he already kind of did with the Banshee, because he got ahead after the Banshee phase of the game.
Ooh, this could be good. He's going to get himself maybe even a Raven kill. That'd be fantastic to start things off. Point Defense Drone's going to soak up a few of those shots, but finally, he chews down through the Vikings, and that surely shuts down a little bit of the push potential from Fantasy, right?
It's amazing. It's amazing by Innovation. Like it seems kind of dangerous to do that, but he actually like made an educated decision. You know,
Yes.
like he knew he had the Viking advantage. He kind of knew what they were, and he went for it. But now he's gonna probably lose the Raven, which is payback, I guess, payback by Fantasy. So now he needs to pressure the third. Like if you let the mech player get a third base, like easily what looks like it's doing right now, like the third base is already there. He needs to do something against that, because he's gonna fall really behind after that, I feel.
Gotta be careful. There's 6 tanks against 4 at the moment here for Innovation, who's just going to be on lockdown, slowly building up the majority of his army. And as we said, without any kind of pressure on the air here from Fantasy so far, it would be difficult for him to launch an assault. Even missile turrets are at the front here, and center tower going down eventually for Innovation once he realizes, oh, okay, I thought that was in the siege tank, but it wasn't queued up in it. It would have been a bit strange, but yeah, he'll be well locked down by the looks of things.
Yeah, Innovation loves life right now. Like he was behind, and now if we look at the SCV count, is at the same level as his opponent. He actually has 2 SCVs more, and he's on lockdown. He has the sensor tower, and it all comes back to the Viking aggression that happened like 2 minutes ago.
Yes.
He was about to put on pressure to the main, maybe threaten to drop or a siege tank from the low ground while pressuring the third base, but by losing all the Vikings, it stopped everything. So now Innovation is a great spot. He's in a great spot.
Just moving towards the middle of the map here now is Fantasy. Of course, they mentioned it on the desk before, that Fantasy, for all intents and purposes, at the very end of Brood War, was the guy. He was one of the very best in Brood War. Ever since in StarCraft 2, hasn't really kind of hit it home, but, I think you can never count out a guy like Fantasy. I think Fantasy should always be up there, especially since he just doesn't leave games and just sticks out to the very bitter end.
Yeah, exactly. And now he's going to try to push on the third base, which is a really good idea, but the sensor tower gives a heads up to Innovation. Can he siege the tank in? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it should be okay. Good. Loses quite a few of those Hellbats, though, on that initial fight. And there goes a few Seeker missiles. That tank should end up dying. So that's at least a good pick-off here for him. Slowly pushing forwards.
Gotta be careful with the Vikings. You don't want to give them to the Marines to get chewed. Like right now, you've got 1 tank shooting at the third base. That's something that's highly manageable by Innovation. So I think that's still a decent move for Fantasy, because he needs to do something with the army supply lead that he has. But it's not like it's denying 1 gas, which is already pretty good. And he's, as Rod is showing us, like he's going full on upgrade mode, which is kind of good. Oh, that's really dangerous though.
Oh, jumps to scan, saw all these tanks on sieging, and will be able to pounce on the opportunity to bring those down. Great move here by Fantasy.
Good stuff.
Really seizing the opportunity.
That's really great for fantasy. Now the third base has to go up. He needs to lift that off, and now he's losing so much income right now. That's really good by fantasy. I didn't see him like going full YOLO stim into the tanks, but he saw like the exact moment Innovation just unsieged his tank. He was like perfectly in sync, and that was what happened.
Got him the kills, and now Innovation here. His territory is slowly being encroached onto once again, but those Hellbats loaded up into these medevacs. Innovation might be losing a bit of patience here on the third base, since he is once again getting into a really good spot here with the siege tanks.
Yeah, that's getting better. And now some drops are going to the main base, but I think there's a turret ring.
Okay. Oh, one Marauder. Not really the most impactful of members there, but he'll try and do what he can. Another poke down towards the bottom right-hand side, and there are still Hellbats loaded up there, so if he tries to go in with that, it's going to take a while.
Okay, he needs to avoid losing that CC. He needs to repair right now. Yeah, losing quite a lot more resources. He's gonna siege up the tank and try to get out. Yeah, he gets the left-hand side tank and maybe the second one. That's really good.
Nice. Because he has air dominance.
Exactly.
That's unfortunately Fantasy would keep having to drop scans over and over and over, and he's going to go in before the siege, unsieges even happened from some of the tanks at the very front. He traded off a few of them, but the Hellbats being dropped. Really, the icing on the cake there for Innovation.
Yeah. Pretty good. He needs to repair the CC again because it was burning. I think he's doing it right now. Only one SCV. Like he doesn't have time to waste. Like yeah, two now. He's taking a fourth base, Fantasy that is, which is really good because you need to be the one expanding aggressively while you're being the bio player. Yeah, you're way more active on the map. So I like that he takes a fourth base. The upgrades are getting really good too for Fantasy. So I guess he's playing a really good game right now. The game is kind of, I don't know, like 50-50, I would say right now. But when you go across the map right now as Innovation, you need to be worried. Where is the army? I don't want to get, sandwiched into 180 supply of Marauder and Marines.
So once again, finding that he does still have the air advantage, we'll just gladly press that on with the Vikings and even maybe shut down a few of those medevacs if they get a little bit too cheeky, but one Viking itself gets a bit too frisky and will fall down. Now, at the same time, jostling for this kind of position, surely, I mean, as you mentioned, Innovation does have to be a bit careful.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like usually when you see that kind of mech on a map that is not really good for mech, as we stated in the beginning of the game, like it's mainly a marine tank game, marine tank map. The thing is, you wanna camp the longest you can, like always, and now this engagement is looking really good for Innovation.
Yeah, those Hellbats actually dropping across the entire army of them, and they will be able to push forwards with the other force of Hellbats onto the left-hand side. There's still quite a sizable Marauder force there, so he picks up a lot of those Hellbats, gets them out, just goes back to the safety of his tanks for now.
I find it interesting that Innovation actually tries to push across the map. Like I would see him like camping on 4 bases and just trying to get into Ravens and stuff like that, like really late game stuff. But that's not what he's doing. He's actually trying to make moves happen. I would rather see him like just dropping Hellbats aggressively, harass a little bit of the economy of Fantasy, but maybe stay back and add on some starpots. But that's not what he's doing right now. Just getting some more upgrades, more tanks, Hellbats, and highly mobile army because he's got so many medivacs for a mech player.
Yeah, you're totally right. That's one of the things that you generally don't see too much of, the fact that he can be this mobile. Of course, we saw, I think it was Happy using the mech to the point where you can try and drop those for harassment, and he hasn't been doing too much of that. Is that something that Innovation could mix in, or is he just worried too much about the straight-up full army engage?
Yeah, he's trying to get, the Protoss Death Ball feeling of the mech army, which actually is pretty interesting. Right now, if he drops all the Hellbats, he's gonna burn everything.
Oh, they're very low. All the bio very low against those Hellbats. He's actually killing off quite a few of them. The siege tanks, though, aren't really fully sieged up, and those Marauders will be able to chew through quite a lot of it. Even the flank down towards the bottom here for Fantasy is a great little maneuver for him, and it goes to show that, well, you were pretty much right. It's difficult for the mech army to get good engagements in the middle of this map.
So 2 things happened in that fight. So the beginning, the positioning of Innovation is really, really good. But for some reason, he waited so long to siege his tanks that he didn't get the best fight that he could. I think they resetted, both of them, they resetted their armies, which is way worse for Innovation, considering how much the mech army costs. So I guess it could have been like the engagement that Innovation needed to come to go across the map, but it kind of failed in some way right there.
Well, for now, Fantasy's going to pounce on the opportunity to just do a bit more damage himself with this army. If he got this Planetary Fortress, that would be fantastic. He's certainly set himself up in a good spot to do that. And going to have to be careful now, as can't move on too quickly against that position. He doesn't... Oh, okay, here come the Vikings.
Yeah, once again, air dominance.
Yeah.
Which means that for now, he should be able to hold his force base, but that's the kind of moment that you want to kind of see maybe a double drop on the third base in the north, but he doesn't have that much medivac to work with. Oh, that's Tim, I'm not sure.
Going up against it with those Hellbats also being dropped across this Bioforce. Once again, picks them up, gets them away from that line at the front, and save some of his army. This is a really, really back and forth game. Innovation taking the supply lead and finding a base up to the top right to harass.
Yeah, that's a really cool game. Actually, this is a really cool game. I see quite a lot of new buildings getting built between the third base and the fourth base of Fantasy. What is it? It's Starports. Okay, he's doing the transition right now. And actually, Innovation is actually doing the same. Like, he's building Banshees right now, which is a really good idea. Interestingly enough, Fantasy is playing a bio game, but it's like really Marauder heavy, and he's building quite a lot of tanks too. So he can siege up positions like this, which is really interesting. And he's got so many Marauders. But what is good against tanks and Marauders? Banshees, man.
Yeah. Especially since he already had air dominance, right? I mean, because he has that kind of Viking base for the Banshees to just launch their assaults from, ain't nothing going to be able to stop those Banshees for a little while whilst you're poking away at them. It's quite strong, quite strong.
Yeah, I'm liking Innovation's position right now. He's getting close to his 3-2 on mech and air, which is still the same upgrade right now, and getting some Ravens for Fantasy, but I think it's a little bit too late. Like, the position he's gonna take in a few seconds is gonna be so hard to break.
Drop the scan, he got himself one Banshee, but that's not going to be enough just yet. There's still another one harassing these Vikings going uncontested at the front, and even if Marines did stim forwards, because he doesn't have Vikings, the Marines would just evaporate under the firepower of these siege tanks. So everything working in tandem for Innovation right now, whereas Fantasy is slowly being backed into a corner.
Exactly. And he's slowly leapfrogging right now. He's taking some shells, but you see the difference in upgrades is doing so much for Innovation. And now 2 more Banshees come in. You're getting tanks every time. You can throw some Banshees. It's not that expensive considering the time we are in the game. So that's really, really, really good for for Innovation right now.
He's almost putting him in checkmate at this point. Now, this controlling this choke point in this kind of matchup can be oftentimes crippling here for Fantasy, as he's trying to micro back with his bio or anything. These Vikings have been worth their weight in gold this whole game long, and even the Banshees still being able to harass.
Yeah, this is so good. We are getting really, really close from a GG from Fantasy, I guess. He's taking the 5th base in the south, like where he's pushing. That's really, really good by Innovation. He's taking his 5th base on the same axis where he's pushing right now, dropping Hellbats on the bio in the main base. The barracks are getting sieged. This is really, really, really the end of this game, I guess.
On top of his production, and what's he going to do? He's going to try and harass over to the left-hand side, maybe get himself a command center, but other than that, maybe shut down a little bit of this economy. I don't think there's going to much more happen. The siege tank line, even if he could breach through this base, there's still the siege tank line. He is going to lose so many barracks, so much production.
When you've got 12 siege tanks in your base and six siege tanks waiting for the counter attack, like, you know that the game is pretty much over right now. But you know, Fantasy is going to try his best to climb back in that game. We know he is, but that's really not looking good for him.
Not at all. Very, very difficult. Even these siege tanks alone in the middle of this map could push back some of that bioforce that we're seeing here. Fantasy, as much as he brought us a really good start to this game, Innovation's defensive capabilities going into this just unbelievable stuff. Really good control, especially up towards the northern base that he had, to have the patience and fortitude to last against Fantasy's position when he was in it.
Exactly, that was the crucial moment of the game.
Yeah.
If he gets put back to only 2 base and 4 extractors, he's in such a bad shape. But by just taking his sweet time, but still getting control back on his 3rd base, he just secured the game. That was really good and clutch by Innovation, considering the movements of his tanks to get Fantasy's tanks back. That was really good.
And with those star pots dead now for Fantasy, it looks all but done. I mean, those dying was pretty much the last linchpin of a scramble to try and get back into this game, but Innovation, man.
GG scans?
Yeah, looks like GG scans. Well played. Innovation takes game number 1 here in this Terran versus Terran, but looking at that game, Funker, and having you here with me, I can't help but feel that was the best game of the tournament so far. That was really good.
That was a really great game. I actually love TvT on that map. Like, as I said earlier, you kind of get some funky situations that you don't get on any map because it's so huge, but at the same time, you've got so many ledge to work with, like cliffs and everything. It can go really well for both bio and mech.
Yes.
So that's a really interesting map, and seeing those two styles clashes like this, that was exactly what I anticipated. I'm really happy about that.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Funker. We're going to go to a short break, buddy. And when we are back, we're going to have game number 2 between Innovation and Fantasy. All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Intel Extreme Masters. As our special guest here, Mr. Funker, is with us to guide us through Terran versus Terran, because let's face it, all of us are Protoss and Zerg, and Funker's pretty useful.
Yeah. I guess, well, I hope I am.
Yeah, you do okay.
I think I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see about that afterwards.
not too bad.
Maybe we'll talk about it. You don't want to be mean on live. I guess.
True. All right. Well, we're going to get into game number 2 now here between Innovation and Fantasy, as these guys going up against one another. Innovation showed a very strong recovery in that previous game. Can Fantasy deal with the heat? Because right now it's hotting up in Cologne. And up to the top left-hand corner, it is our blue Terran representing SK Telecom T1. It is Innovation. It's always nice to have Innovation in our studios.
Love it.
Been a while since, I think, actually. Maybe last Cologne.
Last Gamescom.
Yes.
Probably. No.
Last Cologne early in the year 2014.
Okay.
And down to the bottom right-hand corner, we have our red Terran representing Dead Pixels. It is Fantasy. I think we had StarCraft in last Gamescom, actually. No, I
remember having Innovation at the WCS Season 2 Finals in 2013, which was at Gamescom. That's the last time that I remember.
And then 2014, early on in the year, we had Intel Extreme Masters Cologne, which was in their studios. And the
that Paul The one that Paul twin?
Hero.
Oh yeah, Hero.
Yes.
Bolt was supposed to win. Let's be honest, guys.
Yes, he was.
Bolt was supposed to win, and then Hero comes along. He's like,
at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, it was. And it was a 8-game, I think an 8-game best of 7 finals, because we had a draw. Like the first game was a 40-minute game with a draw.
Oh,
yeah, I remember that. That was crazy.
Who can forget? That was a long day. All right. Well, getting into this game, let's talk about the map again, in particular here for Terran versus Terran, because I can only imagine here that Terraform plays out a little bit differently to Cactus Valley because of its structure. Is that true? A fair assessment, or is it similar?
I have a hard time figuring out TvT on this map right now because it's still one of the newer maps.
Yes.
So I don't have quite an opinion on this, especially because I watch a lot of Korean StarCraft, and for now, like for instance Pro League and stuff like that, you don't see that map. So it's getting hard to figure out. I mean, we've seen quite a lot of games on including Terrans, but not that much TvTs. And I would say the main feature of the map is that it's actually really hard to follow your army and not making mistakes of positioning because of the way the layout in the middle and all the the vision blockers and stuff like that. It's also pretty drop friendly. So I would say that's a decent marine tank map again.
Rodam here pointing out this fantastic supply depot positioning.
Anti-Reaper.
Yeah, you can't jump up any other way from that direction. So it's a really good little supply depot that both of them are incorporating into their games to make it a bit harder for their opponents if they were opening that Reaper.
Yeah, even dash in terminal, like you can do like full-on wall-off against Reapers. There's quite a lot of maps right now where you see that gap, like it's so perfect for a Reaper, and then a depot or a pylon comes in and you're like, oh man, why did I open Reaper again? I thought it was a good map for Reaper. So what are we gonna see here? Like double refinery, okay. So we should be getting some benches again by innovation, but fantasy is going the more aggressive way, but the more standard way, I guess.
Is fantasy with the more aggressive opener of having these Widow Mines out, and I imagine it will be Medevac to try and drop that in and get going. Is he kind of giving a tip of the hat here to innovation? Because let's face it, in the previous game, fantasy was in the driving seat, but then could not break innovation. It's like, what have I got to do to break this guy? So he's going a bit more aggressive here to try and compensate for that. What is it?
Maybe that's something along those lines. I'm not really sure what fantasy thinks about. Like he actually at the upper end on the benchy battle, and he's not doing it again. Okay, we're gonna see a Raven opening, which is actually kind of nice because innovation took so much damage by Fantasy's Banshee in game 1 that he goes for a kind of defensive build, Raven first into mine. So that should be really good against Banshee, but that's not what's coming. We're gonna see a standard pressure on the ground with aliens and marines. Okay, no, he's not gonna get shot. Cool thing. Maybe he can soak up with the SCV. What is he gonna try to do? Ooh, he's gonna be so out of position. Well,
I mean, at least he sees it. It's a little bit foreboding, though. I mean, the Widowmine's going to burrow itself in quite an obnoxious position here to start dealing with these Marines. Fancy on burrowing it, waiting, and just biding his time for a moment here. Widowmine is going to burrow. And actually, he got the Widowmine with a Widowmine. So Widowmine cannibalism.
Ooh, okay. I don't think he's going to get that much more damage. Okay, 3 SCVs. It's actually pretty good. He killed the supply depot, which actually supply blocks innovation right now. So
why was this guy here?
I'm wondering, maybe to soak up the first mine hit.
Maybe
could be something like that, or if actually the aggression goes really long. Like for instance, innovation goes for a Banshee around the map, so he doesn't have that much to rely on for defense in the main. So you can actually bring on the SCV and repair the alien or the Medivac or something like that. It's always useful. Like every time you make the mistake to bring SCVs in any matchup as Terran, I feel like you can always find something where it could be useful.
Yeah. Well,
you build a turret against Protoss, and you kill observers and stuff like that. I always like finding SCVs in my army.
It'd be nice. Would be good to actually get something like that done. Innovation now, just going to fly on down towards the natural and plant himself his command center now pretty quickly, considering he was able to hold that off pretty well. He obviously only got himself a supply depot there, did Fantasy, and now we're going into the later stages with Fantasy also adding himself on a Raven, which can be surprisingly good offensively as well as defensively.
Innovation going mech by the looks of things again, and he's gonna go kind of happy his way, like really early infernal pre-igniter, I think. So blue flame, let's be honest, it's blue flame, and so really early blue flame, which I actually like. There is no ramp on the second base, so you need a huge wall to avoid getting alien run by. That's kind of interesting as a style. Did he see the third TC?
I think he did. Yeah, that's a good scout. Really
good scout. Really cheap one too.
It's funny that you mentioned the blue flame, because of all the upgrades in the game, I always call everything almost by its name, like Gleary Constitution, Roach Speed, and everything like that. But Blue Flame is one of the only ones I actually just call Blue Flame. I can't be bothered calling it Infernal Pre-Igniter.
Infernal Pre-Igniter.
No way.
It's kind of badass as a name when you think about it, but it's
cool.
really long to say.
Okay,
cool. Okay, can we see the SCV count again, please, Roddy? Okay, 35 to 41, so that's really good for Fantasy right now. Third CC on location. Innovation, thanks to his scout, knows that he can go on it. It's not a heavy two-base pressure, which can happen in TvT. It felt out of style, but it's still something that can actually work. Like 5 barracks, starport in factory on 2 base is actually quite strong. But Fantasy goes for the late game right now.
I remember the longest time where 4GG would do that kind of 2-base mech style. It was a while ago, but he still found ways to go.
Vikings, mass Hellions, Hellbat, Raven.
Yeah.
That was kind of crazy.
Well, at least he got himself a full pick off of that medevac down at the bottom left. He was kind of cordoning that in, kind of corralling it into a square, and was able to pick that up. Good defensive position there for Fantasy, though. It's not going to be too easy to break.
And once again, Bio against Mech. I'm liking this. That's one of the, best oppositions in TvT, I feel.
Do you think that with this map being much, much smaller than Cactus Valley, Innovation is going to have a bit of an easier time making mech work, or?
Well, as I said, there's so many routes where on which you can attack your opponents.
Yeah.
So that's something to take into account when you play mech. But at the same time, getting to the position where you got the checkmate last game is going to be easier.
Yes,
for sure.
And also, kind of to exactly what you're saying, look at the spread of Innovation's units.
The vision is amazing.
Yeah, every single little path is covered here. So even with this mech style that he's going to incorporate, he's used the Marines he's retained from the earlier portion of the game to really trap down almost 5 lanes of coverage. That's really cool.
That's really, really great. That's what you need to do. Like when you didn't secure your third base yet, you don't have the money to plan down. What's the name again? The turret? The
missile turret?
No, not the other one.
Sensor tower?
Sensor tower. Thank you.
Thank you.
The sensor tower. You don't have the money to pay for that. So usually you go with like Marines, Vikings, depots, stuff like that to get the vision everywhere. So that's pretty good. That's pretty interesting by Innovation. He's not gonna get caught out of position so far. Now he has the money for a sensor tower, so he pays for it. I'm liking Innovation's position. Fantasy just climbed back in the population really, really fast. What did he do? Like, he's building out of all his barracks right now. He's gonna try for a major push. It's interesting. Like he's got so many barracks right now, and he's building quite the tank out too. 4 tanks to 4 tanks.
Can he make that work? I mean, if Innovation once again is in that kind of very, very well defended location, is it easy to defend the third here, for example, as a mech player against a bio push? Because it looks quite open. It looks quite.
It is really, really open. You can actually play kind of a Maru style TVP, but in TVT you can actually go from 2 different angles and then drop on top of the tanks.
Okay.
So that's something that Fantasy could use, but he needs really a lot of medivacs to do this.
Good defense here by Fantasy already, making sure units aren't just going to loop around and put on the pressure, even cleaning up these small avenues now. So he's taking eyes away from Innovation, which will help Fantasy out a lot, especially since Innovation is seeing him being cleaned up on 2 sides of the map at the same time. So this is going to put doubt in Innovation's mind.
Yeah, you're like, okay, what's going on? I saw everything like 2 minutes ago. I mean, now I'm blind. That's really annoying. That's that alien, Hellbat.
He got found.
Hiding in the bushes. What are you doing here, buddy?
He tried and failed.
He tried. So yeah, getting a really decent tank out once again is really, really impressive by Fantasy, I think. Like, he's always maybe 1 or 2 tanks behind, considering the fact that he only has 1 factory, I guess, compared to the 5 of Innovation. It's quite interesting and impressive. He's going to try for a push in the third base, but he's going to be seen so far away by the sensor tower.
Scan drops, and right now Viking count here. Fantasy is banking up some, so he's kind of leaving those out of vision. And when we saw the air dominant situation become so important in the previous game, this could work out for Fantasy if he's able to match those kinds of numbers.
Yeah, for now he's actually at the same number of Vikings as his opponent, like 6-6, 1 Raven to 1 Raven, but he needs to bring those units with him. He left them next to his main base, so he needs to take that into account. He can't really fight without his Raven, I feel. Like, he actually needs either the PDD to win the Viking fight, or I'm speaking French for some reason, or he needs the Seeker missiles to take out the most important tanks. He actually needs the Raven, I feel, to take a decent fight.
He's just going to play it patiently. Both players are almost maxed out across these 3 bases, and we're seeing the gold base being taken from Fantasy up towards the top, which... Is he in a position here with this kind of army to take this more comfortably than Innovation?
Yeah, probably because he's got map control. I don't know about the army. The army is looking really scary for Innovation. Does he have 2-1? What are the upgrades? We've got a Hellbat drop at the same time. Okay, only +1, so that could be more frightening. Okay, he's gonna be playing for the base trade, I feel. Like, he knows this army is here, and he's still moving to the bottom right, to the bottom left of the map.
Well,
it's gonna go crazy really fast.
Yeah, the star pot's actually being added on as well, up towards 127 against 129 army supply. So it is dead even, but, well, you know, going up against mech can sometimes be a bit... Oh, that siege line is so good here from Innovation.
It's perfect.
Oh my god. This is actually just going to be a slaughter.
Yeah, instantly it goes from, you know, decently enough. You can play the base trade into I'm getting shreked, man. Like, there's so many tanks defending right now. It's gonna be so hard. Maybe he's gonna be dropping on top of the tanks, I don't know.
He needs to do something. He's coming in with a big force up towards the top and going straight onto these siege tanks. As he even notices that they are on siege. He has to do something here. His entire production is being camped back at home. So if he can bring down some of these tanks, maybe that can unlock these positions.
Love it. That was the best move that Fantasy could do right now. And now he needs to sprint to the factories, I feel. Because he needs to, oh yeah, he's loading all his army into medivacs and dropping in the main at the opposite side. Okay, now he gets the Viking and the Raven.
Viking's leaving. Still siege tank at the back there. It's actually shelling away quite a lot of this. He's losing a lot of SCVs, but likewise, he's also traded off a lot back on the other side. The Marine's churning through those SCVs, though. 60 have gone down. He's down to 6 workers.
Only Hellbats in this. He can soak up all these Hellbats, and if he does, I'm liking Fantasy's position. Like he still has two mining base. He still has a really decent fighting army. He would have needed to just leave the barracks maybe in the starports, but.
And also, I mean, are the Viking numbers still in favor of Fantasy?
Yeah,
if
can
we
we
look
see
at
the unit counts?
Because right now, if he has 5 Vikings against 2, so he is in a brilliant position as Fantasy.
Fantasy should be tying up the series.
Wow.
He's got a massive, like, everything comes to the drop on top of the tanks by the time Innovation is unsieged, and he actually had a tiny bit of army on top, so he actually sandwiched for every single position that he could. That was really great from Fantasy because it wasn't looking so well.
Good goes to show that Terraform here, with all of those paths that you can take, you know, you can just swing on around, get yourself a good engagement from every angle, and Innovation really ended up paying for that after. I mean, what was it? Was it impatience from Innovation? Why force this kind of situation when you're powering through the middle?
The thing is, like, the main, I would say, mistake, even though it's Innovation and I feel quite bad saying mistake, but the thing is, I don't think he needed to rush to defend his main base, so he didn't have to unsiege his tanks that well. Like, I mean, he had turrets to avoid getting dropped on top of the tanks that were already sieged, so he could have retained a base mining with some tanks, like 5 or 6 tanks, or at least like traded cost effectively. Right now he's losing, he lost like half his army and he's down 50 supply right now, so that was the major mistake in my opinion. He didn't have to save his buildings, like he had the better standing army.
Yeah. Well, still, Innovation's just going to fly everything everywhere. He understands that technically he's probably extremely far behind, but he has got himself quite a sizable army up towards the top here. Maybe if he can shut down all these buildings, he'd be okay. But there's already tons on the other side here for Fantasy, and he will be just continuing to build up. He's making 12 supply depots.
Yeah, and he's got a massive bank, building 3 starports. I don't know where they are, but he's building 3 starports, which are going to be amazing because he already has the map, the air dominance on the Viking war is going way, you know, Fantasy's way.
Yeah, I suppose you make a few Banshees and then you just kind of
and it's GG. And it's pretty much GG. Like, I always like in that kind of situation, I always like the bio player more, because if you've got great upgrades as Fantasy does, like he's at least 2-1 I think, even if you drop like 3 barracks on one side of the map and you build 3 marauders, if you encounter a tank, it's an easy win all the time, and it doesn't cost that much, and the bank is so good for Fantasy. There's nothing that could go wrong for him. He's gonna have Banshees, and we will have an Innovation that is gonna be forced to GG out.
Yeah, he's trying to babysit these buildings, maybe looking for the final engagement through the middle. Going into anti-armor shells here for his Thor. I can't even remember the name of that one actually when they switch. I can't remember.
I saw you try. You tried.
I tried. Well, the Hellbats gonna walk to their deaths pretty much at the front with the Seeker missile actually hitting this and causing even more problems here for Innovation. But yeah, great decision making by Fantasy in the end, being able to
perfect decision making.
Find those holes.
No, I loved it. That was really good from Fantasy. Like he noticed instantly the unsiege of the tank, and he did what I said earlier, the Maru style. Like, you just drop on top of the tanks and you take a really cost-effective fight. The only last remaining buildings for Innovation are those 2 factories, but man, the only anti-air you have is a Thor. That's not gonna go well.
And this is very apt. The two factories, they're basically mummy and daddy for all of this mech army, but they're gonna fall. Poor little fellas. GG, game number 2 goes to Fantasy. He ties up the series 1-1. And well played. Well played out there by Fantasy to keep this series alive.
Yeah, thank you, Fantasy.
Thank you, buddy.
That was really good. That was really good by him, and we get to have one more game of TvT, which is, in my opinion, the most noble matchup of all.
Noble.
Noble. And I mean the term I used. Noble. I think that's like you can actually see how deep StarCraft 2 is when you watch a TvT, because there's so many aspects of it that are really demanding in terms of micro multitask and strategy. I really like it.
Seems so. I mean, even as much as just unsieging to go to your main base, and then someone jumping on the opportunity to just say, oh, okay, you are that slight little bit out of position. Great fun. Well, I'll have the best of times with that. And Fantasy did. Fantasy did.
Yeah. And Innovation seems quite frustrated, I think, because he was in a really good spot, and I repeat, but I feel like he had the best standing army, and he didn't have to rush it So, of course, he didn't get that lucky on the positioning, but that was Fantasy's job too. Like, he knew the army was going through the middle, and he put himself in a really good spot to go for the base trade, which is always good in that kind of situation. Hands down, a really good game by Fantasy.
Very well done. Very well done. Innovation, though, of course, after looking at game number 1, his kind of defensive tenacity, it's still going to be a hard nut to crack if he just sits back, kind of hunkers down and waits for his moment. Bit more of a urgent Innovation there in game number 2, I would say.
Yeah, he needs to take it slow. If he's about to play mech every single game, he needs to take it slowly with cool,
Yeah.
And that's what he's doing right now in TvZ. He's going to the really late game, even going for battle cruisers in the end. I think he needs to do this. And once again, Iron Fortress, not the best map for mech.
Seems so. Let's get into it then. Game number 3. This will decide who moves on, as we have spawning up to the top left-hand corner. It is our blue Terran representing SK Telecom T1. It is Innovation. Done so well for himself here in StarCraft 2. And he goes up against Brood War Legend. Down to the bottom left-hand corner, we have our red Terran representing Dead Pixels. It is Fantasy.
Yeah, great job by Fantasy. All in all, like, lots of really decisive engagements that he took at the real end of game 2 that made him, in the spot that he had. That's really great for from Fantasy right there. So gas first this time for Eno, and Fantasy is gonna go 12-12. So probably a Reaper opening. We'll see what he decides to do. Like kind of old school Reaper into CC Reactor Factory, and you get quite a lot of Hellions. It's kind of safe as an opening, so I would actually like him to do this on Iron Fortress, a really large map. And as we said numerous times, you guys said numerous times, so hard to get a third base, so hard.
Yeah.
And when you play mech, the 5th and 6th extractor are so important.
I like how you're not only an observer, Funker, you're like an assimilator yourself. You sit back, and whilst you're observing, you've listened to countless hours.
So many.
So many hours of us babbling on about StarCraft. You're like, I can do better than those guys. I can do it.
In TvT, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know about the other matchups. I don't know about that.
That's funny. That's funny. Multi-talents, Funker. Multiple talents you have. As it will be Reaper versus Reaper. With that factory now following up here for Innovation.
He's opening Reaper, is so... On the back of his gas first, right now he's going Reaper, which is the build I talked about in the first game. So it could be a pressure Reaper Hellion, which I actually like on this map. It's pretty interesting that Reaper and Hellion are so mobile. So it's obviously way better on a huge map where you can abuse some other units that don't go as fast. Second Reaper, so that's what's coming. That's really good by Innovation. We'll see what it decides to do. Only one gas by Fantasy. Normal, I guess, because he's going CC after the racks.
Yeah, both players really just being a bit more defensive with their Reapers. Second
Yeah.
one just pops out here for Fantasy. And we'll be able to couple up with his other his buddy up towards the top. But he shouldn't be doing anything aggressive really with it because the Hellion being out. Actually, I think a Reaper one-on-one can beat a Hellion if
Yeah, probably. There's some micro involved. Oh.
yeah. Okay, that's not going well.
Okay, one Reaper for one Reaper. That's not too bad. But the thing is, the Rax on Fantasy side is building a reactor. So right now, he's not building any units. He needs more Hellions, which I think he's gonna switch the factory and the barracks anyways, trying to get the fight. Oh, that's really dangerous. If he loses the Reaper, he's gonna lose so much econ.
Yep, gets himself an SCV at least here. Good start from Innovation. And even 2 more SCVs up towards the top. This Reaper ends up in the battle again. He's trying to hunt down the extra Reaper. And the extra Hellion comes along. This is brilliant here for Innovation to start things.
It's the perfect opening. Like when you do Reaper Hellion, you dream about that kind of scenario. Especially in a best of 3 like this. Losing a Hellion, that's not too good. The Marines, maybe they can get every single unit now.
Those Marines, saviors. They really came out of the academy just at the right time. They promoted very, very well. That
was, I guess, the best scenario for Innovation. But at the same time, like he needs to do damage with the follow-up Cloak Banshee, sorry, because he skipped on the second command center. So it could go really wrong if he doesn't do any damage. But the thing is, there's already an engineering bay for Fantasy. That looked really grim for a moment, but I think Fantasy can be a little bit ahead. Yeah,
he came out on top by the looks of things. Once he cleaned all that up, I did think it was going to go worse, but at least he gets himself that SCV, and all these Hellions been spotted with that cloak being upgraded as well. And he saw the tech lab on the factory, so he knows tanks are going to be out pretty early here for Innovation.
Yeah, Fantasy is feeling like a god right now. He's like, I know you're gonna go Banshee afterwards, and he's already has like 3 towers, 3 turrets when he actually confirms that he's Cloak Banshee coming up. So usually you can still get some SCV kills with even with the 3 turret ring like this, but you're not gonna get critical damage, which in my opinion Innovation needs right now because he's gonna be falling behind in terms of economy.
Finds himself a sweet spot. Some of those missiles fly into the assimilator twice actually and don't do anything because assimilators have apparently an impenetrable force field around them that soak up lots of things.
That Marine drop can actually make some damage. Like we always underestimate the power of Marines. Like even shieldless and steamless Marines are actually so great in the early game against any race. Actually, like you see TY for example, always going for those, you know, off-tempo, off-beat Marine drops. And if he gets the Raven, that's already great. Great micro by Innovation.
Pick it up, get it! Oh.
Come on, get it! Oh.
Tried.
That would have been great if he got that. But I think Innovation was really good at repairing the Raven at the same time.
That was quite the sacrifice, though. That was a lot of Marines for no Raven.
Nothing.
So a bit brutal there to lose all those 8 Marines. As now this small force moving across here for Innovation could be a little bit problematic here for Fantasy. The fact that he's got those siege tanks in tow.
Okay.
Uh-oh, he's losing a Viking as well.
Fantasy.
Oh no.
Did he see it? I don't know if he saw it with the Medivac.
This full little army, you mean?
Yes, because that's dangerous. That's really dangerous. How many tanks does he have? Fantasy, I mean? Does he have a tank?
He had 1 in production at least.
This could go really wrong really fast right now.
Yeah, it could, especially with the air dominance as well. That missile turret actually is a saving grace considering the location it's in because he wouldn't want that to actually catch that siege tank as soon as it comes out. Marine's going to be dropped in the main base. Banshee's actually going to fall. That's kind of important.
He needs to repair the bunker. It's so important right now that he keeps the bunker alive. Like the bunker is not doing anything damage-wise.
Oh my god, he's killed off 10 workers behind all of that. Oh my god.
Marines, man.
Yeah, he managed to clean up the missile turret at the front, but at the same time, he even got himself a Viking, or almost 2. And that Marine just popped out and got himself another Viking.
What a boss. You're a Marine. We call it Albert the Marine in France.
Albert?
Albert the Marine.
Oh wow, okay, well Albert's just about to die, mate, sorry.
Bye, guy. Oh, he gave the first tank that he had. That's really bad. The mine is still doing damage, and then random Banshee shows up, and then 14 SCVs go down. That's so huge.
He just spent a scan in the natural. I don't think he has another scan. His Raven's over the other side of the map.
What about Bunker? Bunker fell down.
He must be still shelling away at it. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Because the thing is, if the bunker goes down, then you can actually unsiege and just, rush down the aggression.
He's still losing workers.
The mine?
25 workers, this Banshee.
The Banshee.
He dropped the scan at the natural to clean up the mine, but all the while, now he has a scan, he's not even going to get it! Oh my god! Oh my god, Fantasy. This Banshee, 19 kills, 20 kills, it just became a commander!
Oh my god.
Not that
that's
really
crazy.
matters, but still, he became a commander!
He did! It did!
Wow, look at that!
22 kills, 23, okay. So
25. And we got a 25. Oh, there we go, he died. But,
good job, Banshee. Good job, Banshee.
Round of applause, Banshee. Oh my.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to say. Like, even though he has so little workers, the supply is actually kind of close because he's got so much army. But the thing is, for the last 2 minutes, he hasn't been able to advance. Now the bunker is dead, so he can do something, but now there is 2 siege tanks on the high ground. It's gonna be so hard for Innovation. He needs to win with that army.
Even the backup bunker died, and everyone knows the backup bunker is it's a backup bunker.
A backup bunker.
I like it. I like saying the words backup bunker.
It sounds so good.
So he will be able to push on to this location. He got himself a siege tank that really denies a little bit of the tanking potential here. That's funny. By Fantasy, and even he's gonna lose his second one because he has air dominance, because he keeps able to be encroaching onto these positions. Innovation slowly bringing this position back.
I can't remember the game, but I've seen a game exactly like that, with the Marine drop in the back end doing so much damage.
Oh, he's going for it again.
He's gonna get the tank.
Yeah.
And the Marine drop is going on the top. Yeah.
Exactly. He's going for it again. He knows that. Okay, so he can't really break this position just yet. Another siege tank falls. Air superiority still in favor here of Innovation at the front. He needs to make something happen with this army, but the drop's going into the mineral line. This could be the nail in the coffin here for Innovation, unless this force does something right now. All the SCVs coming off the line. Fantasy is trying desperately to just break this army, because if he can, he's doing big damage back at home. The 3 siege tanks didn't even die. Oh my god. He's landing the Vikings. He needs to clean up the SCVs.
The tanks don't die.
They didn't die.
27 army supply is dropping news to repair. It's so crazy. That game is going crazy right now. Okay, 10 Marines getting all the economy for Innovation. So there's no coming back for him.
2 workers against 7 workers, but 3 siege tanks. He's going to be able to break this with those units. They're coming back now. They're on their way back. And that 1 siege tank at the back is actually doing big work here for Fantasy.
Did the steam came through, or did it got cancelled?
I think.
Okay, no steam, but he's got the shield, and he just took out the tank, which is really good with this tank in the side.
Oh.
I think Fantasy is gonna do it. 15 supply against 37.
The Marines are on the way back. Innovation took his hand off the keyboard. He is scratching his head at the moment. So here come the Marines. There you go, GG. Fantasy is able to take the series 2-1. What a game, and what a series that was.
That was crazy. That was crazy. I think the game I was referring to before is actually an Innovation game. I think it was a Pro League game. And it goes exactly the same way. The guy is pushing slowly with tanks, and he gets a drop in the back line and starts losing every SCV.
Wow.
And then it's so... like the stress levels are off the charts, because every time you lose a unit, you know you're not going to be able to replace it at some point.
Yeah.
So you need to be so careful in the tank wars. That was a great game by Fantasy. Like, the decision making out of Fantasy was crazy on this one.
Brilliant stuff. Innovation obviously bowing out in the end, and having to, because of that insane, intense action from both of them. And in the end, Fantasy is able to come out on top. He'll be advancing on, and that means that, but Innovation will still have another shot at recovery in this group. So
that's already a major upset, I feel. Like a really major upset. Innovation not going through as first place.
Yeah, true.
That's such a great result for Fantasy. Like, we've been talking about Fantasy getting his first major results. That's how you start a really good tournament, I feel. Like the road to the finals. When you think about it, and he wins against Innovation. That's how it starts, I feel.
Great stuff there from him. And hey, without further ado, let's hear from the winner moving on. It is Fantasy over at the analysis desk.
Thank you very much, Colaris, and of course, thank you very much, Funker, for doing the commentary there. Congratulations, Fantasy. That was an awesome series there. Probably the best series of the tournament, if not the best.
Absolutely. That last game was ridiculous. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what was that? Let's just go straight to map number 3. What's going through your mind at this point? Are you panicking? Are you thinking that, oh, I'm going to lose? Am I going to win? Were you calm? What was going through his mind?
자, 일단 어제 오늘 통틀어서 아무래도 이 시리즈가 가장 액션도 많고 가장 재밌었던 경기였던 것 같은데 일단 1, 2경기 다 건너뛰고 가장 재밌었던 일단 3경기부터 먼저 얘기를 하도록 하죠. 정우영 선수가 직접 3경기가 이제 뭐 어땠는지 그리고 정우영 선수 이제 생각은 또 어떤 생각들이 경기를 하는 내내 들었는지 설명 좀 해주시죠.
일단 처음에 정찰이 되게 빨리 와서 같은 사신인 줄 알았어요. 그래가지고 거기서 한번 말렸고 그리고 상대가 반까마귀 뽑을 걸 배제하고 벤시를 했는데 반까마귀가 이미 있는 거예요. 그래서 거기서 2번 말렸는데 어떻게 계속 이기려고 노력하다 보니까 좀 하늘이 운이 따라준 것 같아요.
So at first, I saw the early scouts. I was like, okay, this has to be a Reaper opening. It wasn't. So I was like, crap, I'm screwed. And then, okay, I'm gonna not consider him building a Raven, so I'm gonna go Cloaking Banshee. And when I arrived, he had the Raven. So I was like, crap, I'm screwed again. So the things weren't very bright over the course of the beginning of the third game. But I think there's only one way to put it, and I think I was super lucky in that one.
Super. I mean, just going to go back on that. Everyone at home and in here was on the edge of their seats. They wouldn't really know what was going to happen. Did not feel any of that himself, or is it just I'm just going to do this, going to do that, I'm going to win this game?
아무래도 여기 이제 와 있는 관중들이라든지 중계하는 해설진들라든지 전부 다 너무 긴장이 돼서 손에 땀을 움켜쥐면서 보고 있었는데 정명 선수는 어떻게 그런 상황에서도 좀 진정을 하면서 이제 그럼 이렇게 해야 되겠다. 말린 거를 풀어나가려면 어떻게 헤쳐나가야 되겠다라는 뭔가 계산이 딱딱딱 섰었는지 경기 중에.
저도 사실 처음에는 이렇게 무아지경으로 하다가 생각보다 벙커 라인이 잘 버텨줬어요. 그래가지고 이거 잘하면 이렇게 빈집 가면 어떻게 할 수 있겠는데 이런 생각이 들어가지고 그때부터 정신 차려서 이긴 것 같아요.
So I guess there are 2 moments in the game very early on with the Reaper Scout and the Banshee and everything. I was like, crap, I was screwed. So things started to escape from my brain. So like I didn't know exactly what to do, but that bunker line really held up really well. And that's when I bought myself some time to collect myself. And I think that was a turning point in the game.
Cool as a cucumber, Moonglade.
Super cool, man. All right, I kind of want to know this because I've been curious for a while. Like we've seen his results recently against like Protoss, for instance, where he's been stumbling a lot. He hasn't been getting the wins. He's been knocked out of tournaments because of him, like Patience, for example. But he can beat Innovation in TvT. Is TvT his best matchup? And what does he think of his Terran vs Protoss right now?
저번 대회에서 봤을 때 이제 팀 동료였던 조지현 선수한테 지는 걸 보면서 토스전에 좀 약간 문제가 좀 있는 게 아닌가, 좀 삐걱거리는가라고 생각을 했었는데 아마 이신영 선수라면은 뭐 태태전뿐만 아니라 모든 정도에서 참 잘하는 선수 때 이 선수를 이겼다는 게 이제 좀 페이스가 좀 더 올랐다고 해석을 하면 되는 건지 아니면은 태태전에 좀 정의를 좀 찾았다고 볼 수 있는 건지 어떻게 되는 건가요?
일단 확실히 자신감이 많이 달라졌기 때문에 페이스는 더 좋아졌다고 할 수 있는 것 같고요. 그리고 지난 시즌에 지현이한테 진 거는 지현이가 준비를 잘해와서 졌지 제가 토스를 못해진 건 아니라고 생각하고 있기 때문에 문제 없다고 생각해요. 지금
항상 내 토스전은 문제 없었다.
지금 문제 없다.
지금
네.
Where to begin? There's a lot of compact answers. TVP, I was never very, not confident in the matchup, but I just want to think about that last matchup against Patience. Just Patience, well prepped by Patience. At the very least, I think I could say that my TVP is okay. I'm rather confident at the moment right now, just because I know that the opponent that I just faced, Innovation, is not a Protoss, but I think it's a telltale that my form's at probably one of the best right now.
Awesome. Any last questions there, Moonglade, or are you all finished up, mate?
That's about it for me.
Okay. Let me. So You've gone through now to the quarterfinals. MMA and Sue are also in the quarterfinals. Is Sue a big problem for you in the bracket? Because everyone else keeps saying it.
어윤수 선수랑 한솥밥도 먹었기도 했었고 지금 올라가 있는 선수 중에 문성원 선수도 있고 어윤수 선수도 있긴 한데 이제 팀 리퀴드 이제 커뮤니티라든지 여러 군데 보면은 정명호 선수한테 가장 문제가 될 상대는 아무래도 어윤수 선수가 되지 않을까라는 얘기들이 좀 많이 돌고 있어요. 직접 어떻게 생각하시나요?
네, 저도 뭐 그렇게 생각은 하지만 제가 GSL에서 이긴 적도 있고 약간 다전제로 갈수록 저도 할 만하다고 생각하기 때문에 자신 있어요.
I am very aware that everyone's been saying that, but I beat him once in GSL. I think I could do it twice. And in the past against Sue, my record as the tournament progressed and best of 3, a little bit struggled, but best of 5, best of 7, it gets better. So if I meet him later on down the road in this tournament, I'm pretty confident I could do it again.
All right, thank you very much, James. Thank you very much, Fantasy. Fantasy reaches the quarterfinals. It's his 4th top 8 this year. Can he get to top 4? That's going to be an impressive feat. He'll be playing on Saturday to find out. And that means we have one game coming up next. And it's a pretty fun game down in the lower bracket. It's going to be Lilbo who takes on Rhett to decide who must go up against Innovation in the deciding match. We'll be right back.